ready for another Pick Up the Pace podcast episode with Magic and Anaru. Our guest today was born in Palm Springs, California. Played rugby at Santa Teresa High School in San Jose before attending the University of Nevada, Reno, where he was also a three-time collegiate All-American.
He was the fourth youngest cap Eagle at age 20 when he made his debut for the USA Argentina in 2003 and went to the 2003, 2007 and 2011 Rugby World Cups. He is the most capped Eagle in history with 76 caps.
From 2004 to 2009, he was also a member of the Men's Eagles Sevens team and made 24 appearances on the World Rugby Sevens Series and played at 2 Sevens World Cups. In 2006, he played for North Harbour in the NPC in New Zealand, playing in the same team as the great Jonah Lomu.
He would later become the first American to play in Super Rugby as a member of the South African Lions. He would go on to play 4 years in Japan Top League, Suntory, NTT Shining Arc, before playing for the Newcastle Falcons in England. He finished his playing career for the Austin Huns in America.
Nō reira e te rangatira o Amerika, e mihi mahana tēnei ki a koe, nau mai hoki mai ki Aotearoa, anei ngā tangata whenua e mihi atu ki a koe, nau mai, and welcome to the Pick Up the Pace podcast, the face of American rugby, Todd Clever.
Thanks for having me. That's quite an introduction and brought back some good memories and hopefully added to my Sky Miles.
Awesome. Hey, Todd, you were born in Palm Springs in California. Can you tell us what it was like for you and your family growing up there?
Yeah, I actually grew up in Northern California in San Jose, but I was born here with my as with my brother, and grew up in California. American family and played sports, all sports growing up: swimming, soccer, baseball, a little basketball, and fell in love with rugby at an age of 15 years old. So, pretty typical. Followed my older brother's footsteps into rugby and traveling the world and really found my passion that way.
Yeah, so you went to Santa Teresa High School, as we mentioned in the intro. What sort of made you talked about following your brother into rugby. What made you sort of start playing rugby at school?
So my brother and I, we actually went to two different high schools. He went to a Jesuit all-boy Catholic school, and they actually had a rugby team. Santa Teresa High School, we actually didn't have a rugby team. I was the only one at my high school that played rugby. So people thought it was, a foreign sport in America, but I was the only one in my school that played. And how I fell in love with rugby was basically traveling. It was my sophomore year, second year in high school, and his team and my team as well were going on tour to England, and it was 12 days in England, visit castles, play 2 games, check out some pubs and bill it with the other families. And I wanted to do it. And my parents actually, they said, the only way that we'll support this and sponsor your trip is if you attend every practice, go to every game, be a good team player. And I thought that was a pretty good trade-off. Just wanted to see the world. So went on tour, and at that time I was playing wing, a little fullback, but off the bench. I wasn't, I was one of the smallest guys on the team and young, and wasn't really into the sport, but I was really into the culture. And I fell in love with going on tour with 30 of my good friends, playing a sport, but ultimately sightseeing, enjoying what the tour life had to offer.
You made the under-19 USA rugby team and then went to the University of Nevada in Reno, and you were the 3-time collegiate All-American. Can you tell us about both of these achievements?
Yeah, again, my brother was on the USA Under-19 team, and he was 19 and I was 17, and we actually got to go on tour to Australia together, and we were there for 3 weeks, and that really, solidified and made me put all eggs in one basket of going with rugby. We trained at the ACT Brumbies facility. We saw Tri-Nations, South Africa versus Australia in front of 110,000 people. And I was just in the audience, and I just said, this is what I want to be. This is what I want to do. this, whatever decision I made after that was to become a player on that field.
So you made your debut for the USA 15s team in 2003 against Argentina. We asked this question of all of our guests that come onto our show. What do you remember about your first match for the Eagles?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it was one of the highlights, and I still have it, and I cherish my cap that I got my first cap against Argentina. But playing against Argentina in Buenos Aires, packed stadium, it was a long time ago, but I just remember the nerves that I had in my stomach the night before and the morning of, and in the walk through, and just the mental side of it more so than actually the game itself. And one of my teammates, must have seen, and he was an older guy, set me aside and told me, he's like, "You're here for a reason. It's just like any other game. Go out, do your thing, be disruptive, be a maniac, and all is going to be good." And I just took those words and calmed myself down, and went out there, and it was just one of those memorable moments. Listen to your national anthem. Doing it at age grade and doing it as a college All-American is one thing, but making the statement, knowing every move, both on and off the field, in the 80 minutes and out of the 80 minutes, to solidify myself as a good teammate, to move my career going forward, especially with the World Cup later that year.
Hey, a year later, you made your debut for the USA Sevens. What attracted you to Sevens, and what were some of your career highlights?
Sevens helped my 15s game, and 15s helped my sevens game. I use the physicality in the sevens for contact and go forward ball, and then use open space vision and skills and speed for 15s. So it really, just really solidified and helped me make my mark as a complete player, or as complete as I could have been. 2004 made my debut in Hong Kong for the sevens, for the USA team. John McKittrick, he coached North Harbor, and he's played a huge role in my success and with rugby. And he gave me the opportunity to live in New Zealand, gave me the opportunity to play for the Penguins overseas in various 10s tournaments, 7s, 15s game, and was in the player pool, got my shot with it, and he really, solidified and helped my career going forward.
Yeah, just touching on that. So you moved over to New Zealand in 2006, and you played for the Mahurangi Club and MPC for North Harbour, including sevens. How different was it playing in New Zealand compared to the United States?
The massive difference, playing anywhere. Came over, played with Mahurangi, like you said. John McKittrick was the coach there, and he really organized it, lived at his batch in Campbell's Bay, just absolutely, loved the culture and lifestyle in New Zealand. So it has a special place in my heart, without a doubt. Going forward, with that and getting opportunities and with the sevens team, played in the national tournament down in Queenstown, and ultimately what makes basically the sevens Zealand team, and be able to compete and performing well there really solidified my spot and how I wanted to take that sport, and kept on moving forward. And then with the 15s, there was no guarantee there. It was just opportunity, and as playing for Mahurangi Club, and then training with the bigger squad with the Bees, and then finally get contracted. And that was one of the major goals I set for myself, was to become a professional rugby player. And it wasn't a big contract by any means, but it allowed me to be a full-time athlete, where I could play both sevens, 15s for USA, play with North Harbor, and learn myself, and then play in the Prims with Mahurangi.
At North Harbour, you played in the same team as the great Jonah Lomu. What were some of the great memories you had playing with the big man?
He's an unbelievable character. I mean, he, just, bigger than life itself. And being around that, and he brought so much media, he brought so much eyes to it, but I learned how to be professional around him, because even when the media was gone, even when the coaches weren't here, the players weren't, picking his brain or whatever it was, he was doing the extras. And that's how you really, get to the places where you want to be. It's when people are not looking, and when the doors are closed, and what are you doing behind those doors. So that's the biggest thing I learned from him. And obviously in 2006, when we had the Ranfley Shield, he hosted all of us, and and I'll never forget, the drink up and enjoyment, and just the aura that he had was amazing. And a few other stories, throughout the career, with it, and introducing him to my mom in Hong Kong, years later, and, giving me big hugs. I mean, it was just, the stories go on and on.
It's awesome. So unfortunately, you didn't make it onto the pitch at the 2003 Rugby World Cup, but you were selected for the Eagles. And in 2007, the World Cup in France, you did make it onto the pitch. What was it like being on the world stage against the world's best for the very first time at that 2007 World Cup?
We had England, who won the 2003 World Cup, our first game in the pool in Lyon. So it was still to this day one of the biggest highlights, and nerves, and chicken skin and up and down my body, and hair sticking up on my neck, listening to our national anthems, listening to all the English in the crowd, singing Swing Low, and performing against the likes of the World Cup winning team, and many of those players that lifted the trophy, the Webb Ellis Trophy, 4 years before, and they're coming in pretty much almost favorites again. So playing that was incredible. We had Tonga, Samoa, and also in our pool, and then and our last game was against South Africa, who eventually won it. So it was the pool of death, but I took so much out of that, and had the opportunities to start in all those games, playing all the minutes, and perform as well as I could have, and gave me the opportunities to further my professional career.
Hey, so a year later, in 2008, you captained the USA 15s. As a young man, how did you handle the pressure of being captain of the United States Eagles?
After that World Cup, they hand me the captain's armband, the coach, and I was actually really reluctant, and I turned it down to him when it was a one-on-one, and I've been around the team already from 2002, and now it's 2008. And the captains before me and I were so different. Everybody is very well spoken, clean cut, and just paper cut of most of the military sort of background, or they were similar to that. Myself, long hair, and kind of a free spirit. Told them my concerns. I'm like, I'm not like that. I'm nervous around media. I'm nervous around jersey presentations and speeches, and he eased my train of thought and just said, I don't want you to do anything different. You lead by example, people follow. And, if you want to have words, the floor is always there, but just do what you do. And that really eased myself, and really helped my career, and forming myself as a man and a leader.
In 2008, you made the move to South Africa to play for the Golden Lions in the Currie Cup and the Lions in Super Rugby. Why the move to South Africa, and what was it like being the first American to play Super Rugby?
After the 2007 World Cup, I had a handful of offers in France, Premiership, and growing up watching rugby and starting rugby, all we got was Tri Nations and Super Rugby on TV. So my whole career is all about setting goals, short-term and long-term goals, and being able to check off those boxes is massive. So, watching them, I had my favorite team, I had my favorite players, and I had an opportunity to play in South Africa to play in this competition in Super Rugby. So I turned down much more lucrative contracts to make the South African rand rather than the British pound. but it was, rich my heart and was able to follow my dreams and most importantly, check off that goal box that I set for myself. Going down there, it wasn't, the people aren't completely welcoming. I had to earn my spot from the coaches, from the players, and also the media. The media is pretty harsh down there. A funny story. I remember during the preseason, about a week or two before the season started, on the front page of the sports section, it had a picture of me, and it read, "Would China import rice? Why would we import a flanker?" And it was pretty much, oh no, like this is going to be interesting. And luckily enough, my debut was successful, and I played well, earned myself a starting position, and played 3 seasons there, and absolutely loved my time in South Africa.
Hey, you've said this, Todd. New Zealand has a special place in my heart because I owe all my rugby success to that nation. How special was it for you then to return to New Zealand to captain the Eagles at the Rugby World Cup in 2011?
It almost felt like a homecoming. A lot of my teammates, a lot of my good friends, and my mentor, John McKittrick, that I mentioned before, that coached me with the USA Sevens and Harbour, they're so welcoming. I mean, the people in New Zealand are just unbelievable. The cultural open arms and family atmosphere. So being back, and I consider that a second home. Being back home was awesome, just to be there, but also to captain the team and represent my country, on the global stage, on the world's best stage, and I'll never forget those opportunities. And the game, especially our first game, our pool game, was against Ireland, and it was on September 11th. 2011, so the 10-year anniversary after 9/11, capturing that, and that whole day was really emotional, really impactful, and we had such a great group of guys that were so committed, but obviously couldn't stand to the greats of it. But I was so proud of that effort that we put in on that night.
You played in Japan for Suntory, where you won a title in 2012. And then played for the Shining Arcs. Me and Magic both went over to Japan last year for the Rugby World Cup, and we loved it. Beautiful country. What did you love about living and playing in Japan?
Yeah, I left Johannesburg after my 3rd season, and joined Suntory, where Eddie Jones was coaching, and he brought me up. And I initially signed a 2-year contract with Suntory. Left the Lions and on good terms, but it was sad to leave somewhere that you're enjoying so much, but financially and to put myself in a situation for myself and family, it just made sense. And I was actually supposed to go back to South Africa after my 2 years. But after the 2 years, I signed another 3 years with the Shining Arcs because I enjoyed that culture. I enjoyed the people, the respect, and I was enjoying the rugby as well. I had a good balance where I was able to play full time with the U.S. without missing any games. They were supportive of that, and to lengthen my career. It's easier to play the top league in Japan and international rugby than it is Currie Cup, Super Rugby, and international rugby. So I think I added a few years of my career.
Hey, so just touching on the comparisons between the different rugby in different countries, in 2015, you moved to England to play for the Newcastle Falcons in the Aviva Premiership. How did all these competitions compare, like you mentioned? Can you talk a bit about that? Super Rugby compared to the Japan Top League and the Top League in Europe and things?
Yeah, I mean, it was I can go back to the beginning stages of my career of being able to balance between 7s and 15s, and my training programs completely varied from, and my body weight, fluctuated quite a bit if I was playing 7s or 15s. When I made my debut for USA, I was, it's still at university, and, playing in front of 200 people, scoring hat tricks, every other week or 5 tries here and there, and then playing in Buenos Aires against, that scrum, that pack, and, in a huge stadium, and then come back to play university. I knew if I wanted to be on that stage and perform better, I would have to, not be that big fish in a small pond. I'd really have to move overseas, and I was able to get that opportunity to do that in New Zealand. So, it was eye-opening playing in the Premier League in North Harbor, playing for Mahurangi. And that was great. And then getting contracted was, the tackle contest, and I learned so much all the way to international rugby. And then playing super rugby, fast paced, physical. Curry Cup was more physical than fast paced, and the Japan Top League was fast. It wasn't that physical. It was easier on the body, but they're brave little Japanese guys diving at your knees and your shins and knocking themselves out on that. But the skill level was improving so much, and you can see it into their game now with their national team, with the Brave Blossoms. And then the Premiership, had a little stint there, and it was all different. And I never thought I'd be in Europe after going to the Southern Hemisphere, just because Southern Hemisphere rugby really complements my style and what I wanted to do and how I can see my strengths. But to be a complete player, and I didn't want to have any stone unturned and experiences. So having that opportunity to play in the Premiership was really great.
So we just want to talk about 2015 for a bit. So that year you were dropped from the USA team by coach Mike Tolkien, and he didn't select you for the 2015 Rugby World Cup. And for us, we were shocked. Anyone outside of America knows you as the face of American rugby. What was behind all of this, and how was the face of USA Rugby not selected in that World Cup team?
Yeah, I mean, having a long career, you can't always be on the highs. You're going to have highs and lows, and unfortunately, in 2015, there was a low, and that was me getting dropped from the team, and it was very controversial. And from my side, it was unfortunate. I looked into them doing an open investigation because I thought I was wrongly outed, and had enough evidence and went to it, and they kind of turned a blind eye, wouldn't let the proceedings happen. And they wanted to lawyer wanted to take action. And from my side, it's all about the team. And I knew it wouldn't be good for USA Rugby. So, I'm not the first professional or the last professional to get wrongly, done. But, I'm confident in everything I did. I slept well at night every time. My chin's always up of what kind of character I am. But, ultimately, in long story short, is, doing, a nude shoot for ESPN, being with all these other, celebrities and big name athletes in America. They kind of disagreed with that, and disagreed with my article. That was my interview that I did, part of that article. And they kind of called me out there, and next thing you know, pretty much got set up to miss something to, one of the sessions, and it was a little gym session, and they benched me and ultimately kicked me off whenever I kind of raised it. So it was unfortunate, and I learned a lot how to, tough times, there's no sugarcoating it, of missing a world stage and a World Cup that you've been preparing for, not just 4 years, but my whole rugby career of going in to be captain, and then this happening to being completely dropped into it. And the team kind of fell apart and didn't see eye to eye with the coaching and where the team was going, and unfortunately they went 0-4 in that World Cup and performed really poorly. And USA Rugby, asked me towards the end of the World Cup, asking me if I was going to retire. And I said, I want to retire on my terms. And because they mentioned, Mike Tolkien, he's going to get fired, and we're going to bring somebody else in. We want you to put your name back in the hat, and we don't want to make announcements. And I said, absolutely, ready to, put on the Eagles jersey. And when I got that opportunity in 2016, after the World Cup, it was, a second life for me, and would never take, another practice, a training session, or a game, you know, a meal with the players, or a night out with the guys for granted, because how special it was for me.
And so just touching on that, you got reinstated as the Eagles captain by former All Blacks coach and the new USA coach, John Mitchell, with the exit of Mike Tolkien. When you got that call, Todd, was it a hard decision to return, considering everything that you went to the year before that you've just spoken about?
No, it wasn't, because, you know, I'd support from all of the players, and from myself to, you know, keep my mouth shut and let it take its course, and trust in the process. And especially, you know, speaking with John, and, you know, he asked me simply, he's like, what do you want out of this? You know, you want back in, what are your goals out of it? And I said, I don't want to be captain. I don't want to be a leader. I just want an opportunity to represent my country, and, you know, just give me a shot. So we were in camp for a week. We had one game against Argentina 15 in Houston. And the day after the game, he, you know, talked to me about not being captain of it, and how he wanted to reinstate me to be captain again. I think he was the 5th coach of USA that I captained for. So throughout my career, and, you know, obviously it's you know, it brought me a lot of joy in getting that opportunity to play, but not only play, but to lead, and lead by example through the tough times, and after that, and to prosper to qualify for the World Cup as well for 2019.
Yeah, let's just talk about that. So your final game was a win over Canada in 2016 that saw the United States qualify for the 2019 Rugby World Cup as America's won for the very first time. So looking back at your Eagles career, Todd, what are you most proud of?
I don't think I can put my finger on one thing, because it was such a long career, and there were so many highlights. But the journey, I would have to say, the journey alone throughout the things, like I mentioned before, around Jonah, is, you know, when it's emotional, when you're by yourself, and when no one's looking, and how easily you could take training sessions off, or not be the best that you can be, but you do it. So, you know, putting on a training top, and going out there, and training your ass off when no one's there. It's like, this is what's going to make me who I want to be. This is what's going to put me on that field. This is going to put me in the locker room. That's what, and the biggest thing is, this is how I'm going to get the respect from my peers, not only in my locker room, but in the other opposition locker room as well.
Hey, so you ended your playing career for the Austin Huns, winning a Division I title with them. We hear you're on the US Rugby Board, so with the new Major League Rugby competition and the recent success of the USA Sevens team, what does USA need to do to be the next Japan in the 15s game?
You know, having the Major League Rugby now, it is definitely a big missing piece to our puzzle to perform well. So, you know, we're in our third season, just got abruptly stopped through COVID, but the trajectory of the league, and the insight from, you know, broadcasting to sponsorship to leagues to cities that want to get involved. And I might be a fool saying this, but in 10 years time, I truly believe Major League Rugby is going to be the best competition in the world, where people want to be there. And closely following that is going to be, you know, good performances with our national team. So having that go forward is going to be great for the game, and pathway to for our next generation. So I'm hoping, you know, in 10, 12 years, our national team will be able to be in that semifinal spot.
You've had an amazing career, Todd, but you've also had the honor of playing against both the Māori All Blacks and the All Blacks in America. With your close connection to New Zealand, how special were these two moments for you?
Yeah, it's every rugby player's dream, and they'd be lying not, is to face the haka, and to experience that challenge, that cultural challenge. And I've been lucky enough to face it, you know, numerous times through, you know, the Maori and All Blacks. And I remember probably one of the most enjoyable one was in Santa Clara when we played against the Maori All Blacks. And I remember, making eye contact with my then roommate, Czar Lawrence, that was also playing. So having somebody that you sleep on, like your roommate, your housemate, your teammate, and then when our countries face each other and see his look in his face and see mine, and man, I never want to tackle him so bad in my life. That's the sort of thing, and that's what you guys bring to it. And but playing in Soldier Field in 2014 against the All Blacks, and that was insane magic, and seeing them and throughout my career of watching, like I said before, the Tri Nations games, and even right when YouTube started, you're Googling, and probably Haka's one of the most YouTube things in the world, and it's such an amazing thing to take place and be on the stage and face it.
Your parents, Robin and Harry, and your brother, Chris, and your number one supporter, your daughter, Hadley Tombako Clever, how much have you valued the support of your family throughout your career?
They played a huge role. My parents, they instilled how to be a good teammate, how to be committed, and the support that they have. They've traveled all around the world, over and over again to watch me play age grade, World Cups, test matches, and to listen to the national anthem and try to find my mom, which, we always make eye contact during that time in the stands, was always, really special to me. And I definitely taking a page out of that book, raising my daughter Hadley, and maybe more. We'll see. So that's one of the biggest things is support is massive, and following my brother's footsteps, who got me involved into rugby, and taught me how to be tough, picking on me when I was younger. So I'm forever grateful for them.
So, Todd, we're huge wrestling fans, and we got excited reading about the WWE approaching you to possibly become a wrestler. So, we've got a question for you, mate. Have you got a wrestling name yet? And when are you making your debut on the WWE?
Yeah, it was actually really funny and humbling to receive a message and calls and emails from the WWE after my retirement. They sent over a very nice package and congratulating me on a nice career, and invited me out to Orlando, Florida to check out the training facility and check out some options. And I was at a point of, saying yes to everything. So I said, all right, I'm ready. So I jumped on pretty much the next flight that they bought me to Orlando, and like, oh, here's the tour, and this is, high performance, and gave me a run. And I said, I'm ready to get in the ring. And they're like, oh, we're just showing you around. I was like, no, I'm ready to get in. So I jumped in the ring first couple of minutes in there, doing somersaults, doing flips off the thing. And there's like, you interested for this? And so I stayed out there, and I made a couple of camps to it, and really enjoyed it. But my professional career and time was steering a different way, and I was focusing more on family time than being away of being a maniac wrestler. But never say never. I might join the ring. Who knows?
Hey Todd, I've seen this clip come up many times on YouTube, and I've been meaning to ask you. So that time where you dived over the trainer, what was up with that in one of those sevens games?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing about rugby, and the reason why I started playing it, and the joy I get out of it is you get, it's all about balance and having a great time. And yeah, I could have gone right, I could have gone left, but I decided to go over. I don't really know, but I had fun doing it, and it made highlights. So it's pretty comical, and it comes up. People bust my balls about that sometimes.
I tell you what, just looking at some of the highlights of your tries throughout your career, you do love a good dive, don't you? You love a good dive.
Yeah. I learned from the best. I mean, you look at some of the Super Rugby and the Tri Nations, and trying to out leap and jump Brian Habana. I always have that conversation.
Hey, thanks for that, Todd. Before we wrap up, we do a thing every episode. It's called the Pick Up the Pace Challenge. So what we will do is we will give you a topic, and you have 10 seconds to give us 9 answers. So, for example, we will say, Todd, name for us 9 fruit, and you've got 10 seconds, okay?
Oh, geez.
So, Magic,
Yep.
you got the timer ready?
I got the timer. Oh, you do the timing. Have you got your phone
I'll
handy,
do the
bro?
timer. Yeah,
You
I'll
do the timer.
Okay, all right.
I need an excuse, so I'll bring
Yeah.
Winston
You might
on
need
this.
some extra help for this one. That's right.
You gotta
Okay.
be- You got to be a little
You
bit quick on your feet, so I'm sure you'll get that because we know you're quick on your feet, Todd. Alrighty, here we go. Here we go, brother.
Todd Clever from California in the United States of America. Name for me in 9 seconds. Sorry, in 10 seconds. Name for me 9 Super Rugby teams. Go.
Lions, Stormers, Cheetahs, Blues, Reds, Rebels, Force.
Time's up.
Oh,
How many did we get?
9.
7.
Oh no! The dog's biting me. I swear. You know.
Oh, yeah.
No, awesome to have you on the podcast, Todd, and we really appreciate taking time out of your day in these testing times that are around the world at the moment, eh?
No, absolutely. Thanks for having me. You know, it's a huge pleasure to be on your guys' show, and definitely looking forward to following your guys' career.
Take care, Todd.
Excellent.
Thanks for your time.
See ya.
Thanks, bro.